Hey everybody, welcome back to Venting with Us. Happy Saturday, happy Saturday. Another week down. I have to say I was definitely exhausted. By Friday, I was like, oh my God, is it the weekend yet? Because my body, I realize, starts to just shut down. It's just like, I can't no more. I can't no more. I'm like, I can't be the little engine that could because I'm just going choo choo choo. I cannot. So just wanted to follow up with you guys with what's happening. We got all the documentation to send over to Congress. I'm very, very excited. I'm going to do all the paperwork to send to the congressman. I have two congressmen that I'm going to send all of the paperwork. I've spoken to a lot of different funeral homes to, just collect more data. And I am just baffled. I had one funeral home that told me they have well over 30 cases a year that family members are in dispute with, the their family members' bodies or ashes, etc. And it's just crazy to know that there's no law to protect people. And again, I'm not saying that if you're not speaking to your family member for a couple of months, that's normal. I'm sorry. It's very, very normal. And I can only speak based on, my background, my family, my culture. And a couple of months, a year, sometimes 2 years, shit happens in families and, things happen. You don't talk to people for a while. There's a fallout or whatever. To each his own. But when it's excessive, like 20 years, 22 years, 23 years, in my mother's case, it was more than 23 years of no type of communication, no assistance, no cards, no anything, then that is more of a kind of, we always talk about flags, right? That's more of a flag to me that says, you know what? I'm sorry, I thought there was a bug on me. That's more of a raised concern that there should be something in line to protect family members, because I mentally think, in my situation, what if I die? Okay. God forbid. I have many, many, many more years to give you guys all of this. But what if I die tomorrow and the only person that would have the legal right, unless I have a documentation, I do have documentations. So there are people put in place of what will happen, and where I'm going to go and how I am going to be cremated. I don't, and this has been a struggle. I may change it next year because, okay, first of all, don't make fun of me. But if you want to get roll, that's fine. I have this thing where I get very nervous when I think about it because in actuality, I don't want to be cremated because I don't want to be burnt. That might hurt. I don't want to be dead, but it may hurt. And then I don't want to be buried because I suffer from claustrophobia. So, and I don't want bugs all over me. So, and again, I know I'm gonna be dead, but just the thought of it, so that's a struggle. So I have so far come to the conclusion I do want to be cremated, but this is a whole thing for me. I know what you guys are saying, oh my God, but this is a thing for me. This really is very serious. Um, but yeah, so I'm struggling of what I want to do, so, but I'll figure it out. So the next piece is to create the letters, which I'm going to do today. I've been up from the fucking heavens of dawn. Okay. I've done so much today that it's you would think I have a week off to just relax, and that's not the case. So, and then, last night I was making my grocery list, right? Because yesterday was technically supposed to be my last day of bad food because I'm going on a strict cottage cheese diet, right? But I ended up getting 4 slices of pizza. So today's technically going to be my last day. No chips, no nothing. And I'm going to go get all this good food. But I think I am going to end up going to the gym because I know a lot of people psychologically, they're like, oh, the gym, working out, but it's just so hard. For me, it's the first 2 days are always the toughest because your body's just not used to it. That's just a norm. But honestly, I sleep better when I exercise. And after I come to the gym, after I get out of the gym, I'm usually at the gym for about a good 2 hours. And the only problem I'm trying to figure out is how I'm going to fit everything into my schedule. And that's what's creating the dilemma, which is why I'm trying to do the diet first before I end up going to the gym. But I know that with the gym, I'm going to lose weight faster than being on a diet and starving myself. And if I go to the gym, then I can have chips. But if I don't go to the gym, I can't have chips. Do you see where my dilemma is? And that is my kryptonite because I love chips. I love some good like barbecue baked Lay's chips, and I can taste it in my mouth right now. It's so good. So that's my dilemma. So as I was finishing up Sons of Anarchy, which I got like I think one more season left for this to fucking end. And then I'm done with this. This has to end. So why is it that every time you watch a good show, right? And they have like so many seasons of it, the last like 2 seasons of it always sucks. It always just goes. So, but I've already committed, so I have to finish it, and everybody's kind of trying to tell me like, oh, you definitely should watch Games of Thrones. That was such an amazing show. I'm like, I don't know if I can do it. I just don't know, but we'll see. We'll see. So that is that was what my week was. And it's very like crazy. I felt like it was just on the go, on the go, on the go. But anyways, let's talk about squatters, what we're actually here for. So when I watch the show, first of all, there's 2 different squatters that you can watch. There's one on Hulu, which is the one that we're going to talk about with the mix of A&E squatters. And there's a little bit of different comparisons there, which is why I'm going to talk about both today. But could you imagine selling your house for whatever reason? Maybe financially you just couldn't afford it anymore, or you wanted to get a better home, or you were moving out of state, right? And as this process is happening, you find out someone has been living in your house. What happens if you find that house of your dreams? You're finally a homeowner. It's something that you've been working up for so long and you've been saving for so long. And you mentally have already designed what the rooms are going to be, what the living room's going to look like, what the kitchen's going to look like, and how many people and parties you're going to have in this house. And as soon as you get the keys and haven't even put the ink on the paper, you find out there's somebody living in your house. Well, this is what we call squatters. Squatters come in, they live in your house, they become tenants, and they take over your property. And they don't have to pay rent for many, 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 many months, sometimes even years. There have been cases throughout the whole world of squatters just living in people's homes rent-free. And because the court system is so backed up, and it takes so long to get these eviction papers, squatters can live in your house for many months to years before they're actually removed from the property. So what is a squatter? Let's get down to it. So squatters are individuals who occupy an abandoned or unoccupied property without legal ownership, rental agreement, or permission from the rightful owner. Squatters versus trespassers. Now, when I was watching on the Hulu version of it, 'cause that's what I started out with first. I was like, wait a minute, but isn't that considered trespassing? Trespassing? Because it wouldn't make sense for me if someone's living in my house. Like, I can like just call the police and they can, have them removed or whatever. What if this person's dangerous? What if this person, they're like, no, because then that's considered as frogging, which is a whole different thing. The frogging is basically someone living in your house in a space that you don't even know about for X amount of time. They could be like, let's say you live in a house, right? And they have occupied a space in the attic, and you never go into the attic. That's frogging. And they only come out when you're not home. They eat your food, they watch your TV, they may take a shower. That is, that's different from a squatter or someone that's trespassing. So trespassers enter a property unlawfully and can usually be removed immediately by the police, whereas squatters have often established a presence that police treat as a civil landlord-tenant matter, requiring a formal eviction notice. Now, again, in order to get these eviction notices, it can take months because of such of the delays that are happening in the court part end of it. It can go on for years. Unfortunately, some people are paying on these properties and they just want out. They just want to be able to sell their home. They cannot sell their home because they have squatters on there. So now they're paying for that property and wherever else that they're living on. Laws in many jurisdictions unintentionally shield unauthorized occupants if they present fake leases and have stayed long enough to claim residency. So basically, what happens is if a tenant or a squatter really has been on the property longer than 30 days, that means that then the landlord or the owner of the property has to actually even go further to get more documentation to prove that these people are squatters and they're not actually tenants. Now, the thing with the squatters is that they're very, very smart. And when you watch the Hulu Squatters Get the Fuck Out of My Home series, I believe there's like 6 or 7. I was able to actually get through all of them in one night. I could not believe it. I was like glued in. I said, oh my God. It's just so crazy because you would never believe that something like this would happen, but it happens more often than not. But in the very first episode, you can see that the girl, unfortunately, her dad dies, the house is left over to her. But because now this happened in Queens, mind you, so I was even more intrigued. She couldn't keep up with the house. The house was very, very expensive, and she was in the midst of selling the home, and squatters moved in. She had no idea what was happening, and she called the police. The police came over. She tells the police, she's like, look, this is my house, but that's not my door. I don't understand like what's going on. I can't even get into my house. So what ends up happening is that a lot of the times what squatters will do is they're very dramatic, first of all, very dramatic, but they can change the whole door. So that way it has a different lock. So that way you can't get onto the property, or they will create these leases. Now, squatters have become very, very, very like experts in this part of the game. So they know how to create fake documents. And because of the beautiful internet and ChatGPT and Google and all of these great programs that we have, they are able to actually get these notices or these legal documentations off the internet and actually create a fake landlord tenant agreement, giving them permission to be on the property. Once they have this and they're able to actually make it look so authentic, they can then, if the cops are called on them, they can be like, okay, well, look, I actually have authority to be here on this property. I have a lease because Bubba gave me the lease. I signed the lease and I gave him money or whatever the case may be. And now I'm living on the property. And now they have this documentation. Cops are cops. They're not lawyers. They're not judges. They can't really, say this is a legal document. This is not a legal document. And on top of it, if they've been on that property for longer than 30 days, now they have to, the actual owners have to go to court. They have to get a legal document that says, okay, now these people have not paid rent on this property. And now we can serve them with an eviction notice. But on the flip side of that, because it takes so long, the squatters can be in there for months without paying rents, sometimes years, as I stated. But then once they do get the eviction notice, that's an extra 30 days being on the property. And even then, you still don't know whether or not if you can, get them out because they may flip it on you, causing them to be a longer process. So in the first episode with the woman, she didn't know what to do. She was calling the cops. They told her that they had a lease to be on the property. And in that scenario, when that also happens, which I should also explain, is that once they have a lease and they're on the property, as a landlord or an owner of the house, you're not allowed to step foot into that house because now the tenants have a privacy law. They just can't walk into the property. You can get arrested. It's kind of like living in an apartment where you've signed the lease, right? And you pay monthly rents, but until they notify you, they can't really come into your apartment. It's, obstruction of the legal system. So you can't do that at all. So the woman actually went into the house and she was, yelling at them, and you could see them. And he was like, you have I have a lease, get the fuck out of my house, and blah, blah, blah. She would call the cops on them, and the cops would tell her, look, as long as they have a lease, there is really not much that you can do. So she went on the news, and as she's on the news, and this is all getting documented, one of the squatters actually starts walking up, and you can see it. And now the news people are actually like live watching this, and they're like, holy shit, we can't believe this is just happening. Like, there's an actual squatter. Like, so now they start interviewing him, and they're talking to him, and she gets arrested. They call the cops on her. And because now she's trespassing, they're like, no, this is so crazy. This was like a whole big thing. It was like, it was probably one of the best ones out of all of the episodes. I'm gonna be very honest because it had so much action and everything in it. But it's so crazy to think that this is possible, like in 2026 with all of these legal vines that we have and things that happen every single day. You would think that something like this would not happen. Now, there is another show on Annie, which is also called Squatters. And it's about this guy who created the show because his mom ended up in the hospital and the squatters took over her house. Now, he's very smart on how he does his thing, and those are about 20 minutes. So if you want to watch that, you definitely, but I would say, watch the Hulu version first. So thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you guys had a phenomenal episode with me. Come next week as we go into another documentary. All right, guys, I love you so much. Keep you posted on the Congress stuff. All right, bye.